Hello everyone. It's my first time going live, so bear with me 1 second, make sure we've got everything good here. All right, cool. Hello everybody. Looking forward to answering these questions. Give me any feedback if you're watching, and I love any criticism I can get. A little background on me before I get started. I just got introduced to AO about a year ago, and graduate mentor status the last couple of months. Excited to do my best at mentoring you guys. I'm in retail. I've been in retail my whole life for the past 12 years, different retail businesses. And then the last 2 years, I franchised one of those businesses, and I'm in franchising now. So I'm a franchisor, a retail store owner, and I'm also in e-commerce and distribution because of the franchising business. So a little bit of a few different things, but main focus is in retail and franchising business model. Okay, so first question I got here is, I apologize if I butcher any names. Sanal Perviv, and Sanal asked, if you had some extra cash in business, what would be your next move to grow the business? So sounds like he's got some extra cash and is looking to expand or grow. His background of the question is that he is in title searching business. We provide a B2B service, and our clients are title insurance companies. So without knowing too much detail past that on what you have going on, I would say that what to do with the extra cash would probably depend on two main things. It would depend on whether or not you've hit a ceiling yet on what you have going on with your current systems, your current team, your current cash flow, your current income in business. If you don't feel that you've hit a ceiling yet, and you think you can take on a lot more business with what you have going on right now and you can handle it, then I would put that money into marketing and advertising, into growing the business, into finding and recruiting more clients to get essentially more cash flow, more business, and that marketing money would come back to you essentially in the form of clients and more business. Eventually, if that's the case, you would do that. And the natural evolution of any business is eventually you hit a ceiling where your current systems and processes or your current team, especially if it's a one-person team, if you're your only employee, eventually you hit a ceiling. And when that happens, if you had any extra funds at that time, and if maybe this is that time for you, it would be good to restructure your systems, your processes, hire additional help if need be, and restructure the business to be able to have a much higher ceiling. And then take any additional cash and dump it into marketing to grow the business. That would be my advice without knowing too much detail. So it's going to depend on one of those two things. You either use the money to make more money, to grow to grow your client base and your customer base, or use some of that money to prepare yourself and be able to handle that, and then use the remaining of it to boost that. So that's all I got. If you have any other questions, or if you want more detail, you're welcome to message me directly with a little more information. We can hop on the phone or go back and forth through some emails, and I'm happy to give you more insight on what I would do, knowing more of what you have going on. All right, so next question is Michelle Algeir. Apologize, Michelle, if I messed up your last name. Let's see, what she's got here is, what are the most important pieces that you must have implemented in your business before making your first hire? Is a company handbook needed before the first hire? What else would be necessary? Her background on her business is that she owns a holiday, wedding, and event lighting company. I am looking to hire another person to help install lights at our client's home or business, and I want to make sure that we have everything in place before making the first hire. So after reading this, I think I've met you, Michelle, at an event at Sean's house. If I'm not mistaken, you were there at the leadership event, I think, the most recent one. And I remember you actually talking about this out loud in front of everyone, that you were getting ready to have a lot more business, and that after you and your husband had climbed some ladders and realized that that was not your forte, you wanted to hire somebody to do that stuff, and so you would not have to hang lights anymore. I think it's a fantastic idea. I think everybody has to make their first hire. It's the most intimidating, scariest hire you're ever going to make, but you need to take that leap and take that step almost in a way to get it behind you so that you're not scared to make future hires, and you learn a lot anyway from your first hire. I like that you're trying to be as prepared as possible. But the first piece of advice that I would say, and I don't know that everyone would agree with me on this, and I heard this exact phrase recently, so I'm just gonna reuse it. But action is more powerful than perfection. That's what I had written down here for you. And essentially, what I mean by that is, yes, of course, you need an employee handbook and you need a code of conduct and you're going to need processes and systems and everything. But if you wanted to have everything perfect before your first hire, you might sit here and pass by a lot of potential business that you could do with that first hire and lose on a lot of sales because you're sitting there trying to perfect and have everything in line to hire them. So to answer your question, yes, you want an employee handbook. Make sure you have a code of conduct in there. Make sure you have some kind of processes on how to handle those ladders, how to climb ladders, how to get down, how to be safe. A lot of these things are probably standard information that you can Google and pull out of other handbook from bigger companies. Like I would just guess that the handbook for a shipping company like UPS probably has some pretty clear language on how to like lift heavy boxes. And maybe this gentleman that's going to be working for you is going to have to lift boxes of lights and might want to put something like that in there. Things that you could literally steal from people that have already done it. So you don't have to go invent the steps. But yeah, you need all that. But I would start with, I would make something, but I would make it, set a deadline and make it in the next week or two. And whatever you have, make that the first draft. And then go hire your first employee. And then every day you're going to learn a new lesson and go back and adapt and change that handbook, change that kind of conduct, the processes, and continuously adapt everything to work better and better as time goes on, as you learn what you need, as you learn how your staff is going to react and act and what they're going to mess up and what they're going to do great. But don't worry about having everything in line perfectly before you go make your first hire. You need to take that leap, in my opinion. In your shoes, I would take that leap and I would get that person. I would do my best to set them up with the most guidance they can and let them know that we're in a young, growing business and we're going to grow together. And I would welcome their feedback on everything they do openly and let them know that we will be continuously making improvements upon everything we do, including the processes for their job and the resources that they have to do their job and the guidance that you give them to do their job. But try not to let that hold you back from growing your business. It's been a few months since I remember you saying this when we were at Sean's, and if you haven't hired somebody by now, I feel that it's maybe you're waiting to have everything really perfectly lined up, and you just need somebody to maybe give you a little push and just go make that hire. And then there'll be kinks along the way. There always is, but you can work them out as you go. And best of luck. Reach out to me directly if you have any other questions. You want to shoot a conversation back and forth regarding what could go wrong, what your concerns might be. I'd be happy to. I have a lot of employees, probably 40 to 50 between all the locations we have. So I've dealt with every problem on the book, and I can tell you how we handled it and how that worked out for us. All right, next person, we have Ashley Lee Tourneau. Again, I'm sorry guys with the pronunciation. Let's see, what does she have here? She's asking if we have any advice on developing a product line. Okay, that's very general. Let's see what we have here. For the background information, she says, I own a cleaning company. I had an opportunity to create an eco-friendly cleaning products. I have no idea what to expect or what to plan for. Looking for any generic advice. All right, so we're creating a new product line and it's going to be in the eco-friendly cleaning products department. The first thing that comes to mind, without knowing too much details on what how this is all going to work or what you have in mind or how this opportunity, what this opportunity really is, I would say look for a gap in the current market. So if there's a lot of cleaning products, but not a lot in the eco-friendly, and maybe there's some departments of the eco-friendly cleaning products that are completely missing, I would look for gaps and holes that you can fill. Before you go and try to create a competing product with some of the biggest gorillas in the industry, which in cleaning products, I'd imagine, I don't know a lot about cleaning industry, but I imagine there's probably some really big players. It's a very old industry. Everybody needs cleaning products. It's also a huge market, so there's room for more players, but there's probably some massive ones. So I would go, try to create a product to step on one of their toes, which I absolutely would. But before I did that first, I'd find a gap. a gap to establish your brand, something that you could easily get into, take over some part of the market relatively easily without a lot of without a lot of fighting for it. And then use that to kind of get a presence, establish a brand, get a footprint, people to recognize you. So yeah, they might be buying all these other brand products, but they buy your product when they buy this one thing because it's the only one that makes this thing when you need this, or it's the only good version of this. And then once you kind of use that to enter yourself and position yourself, then I would slowly start trying to take up everybody else's market share. But as a secondary thing to having established myself by finding an easy in. And an easy in to me would be a gap in the market, in the product line, something missing somewhere. Do you find yourself using a floor cleaner to clean a countertop because it works better? When if that's the case, then maybe we need a countertop cleaner because there isn't one if you're using a floor cleaner. And that might be a horrible example. I'm just trying to make something up. So that's what I would recommend for developing a product line, where to start. Packaging, branding, and image are just as important as the actual product. I've learned this somewhat the hard way. When I was younger, I thought if you made a really awesome product, people will buy it. That's not the case. You got to tell them about it. You got to get on their face about it, and you got to market. And if somebody markets better than you, they might have a worse product. They'll still sell it better than you will. And it's sad to say, but it's true. It's not always the best of something that is the most successful. It's the best person at getting that message out. So make sure that you take that very seriously when you're doing your labeling and your packaging and your marketing. And if it's eco-friendly and that's the main part, then make sure that's very clear and obvious. And not just like in your label. Don't just say eco-friendly, but think about using an eco-friendly package, maybe an eco-friendly way of delivering whatever you're delivering. An example that comes to mind right now is my wife, for example, used to buy regular laundry detergent like most people probably do, and she recently started buying these strips. They come in a cardboard envelope. You buy them in the mail. They come in with a stamp. They get mailed very easy. They're literally a large manila envelope size with all these like strips of what looks like a rubbery substance, and they're little strips like this big, 1 inch by 4 inches. And there's a bunch of strips in this envelope, and I don't even know what she's paying for them. Each strip is one load of laundry. So their fight is that they're being eco-friendly, not by making some eco-friendly cleaner, which I think they are actually, but the main thing is there's no plastic, the packaging is so eco-friendly, just a little cardboard envelope. There's no plastic packaging, all those gallons of cleaner, all that liquid. It's very hard to distribute, ship, get it to stores, to retail outlets. It's very expensive to order online and ship to your house. This is a stamp, hits the mail. The type of the emissions that are created on the planet, the carbon footprint from all these semi trucks delivering all these thousands of gallons and pallets of detergent to every grocery store across the nation and every home that orders it on Amazon, and all that goes away. And they're marketing all these things about their product that isn't really even their product, but it is, but it's not the actual strip of laundry, but it's all these other things that are related to it, and why now it's eco-friendly. And my wife is sold on it, and it's all about the message they put out, right? So long story short, I think in a market as big as cleaning products, making sure that you have that super clear and you find that niche, and then stay true to like whatever your why for that brand is and your purpose is in all your marketing, whilst entering with a gap and not trying to enter by fighting over something that somebody else can maybe put in a bigger fight than you. Okay, sorry that was a long explanation, but hopefully that helps, Ashley. Reach out if you have any other questions. Next guy here we have is Dan Bitter, and Dan asked, how can I come to a new equity agreement with my partner while addressing his concern? Okay, so right off the bat, I think, I might need a little bit more information to give you a lot of feedback, and it might get to where, you might need, it definitely would acquire multiple different things of feedback, and in the end, do whatever you think feels right based on what everyone's telling you, because partnerships are a big deal. But let's see what the background you're giving us here. I initially started as a coder in our tech startup, but my role has evolved to CTO. So it's a big role. My equity share hasn't yet changed from the 3% I initially agreed to, so 3% is pretty small. We were using CFO services until we are using CFO services until we find someone that can take on the role for equity. My CEO, Todd, is hesitant to redefine the equity until we finish a business plan, because he wants a CFO-minded person to say yes, that equity split makes sense, or no, it doesn't make sense, and why. We have a large bill coming in June 1st, which I need a personal loan for. I'm our only funding source for now. I mean, if I'm paying the bills as they come, but I feel like my 3% isn't enough to justify long-term debt. I completely agree. We've talked about 20-25%, which satisfies me, but Todd's concern is over-promising equity amounts. His previous startup, he gave away 3 shares of 20%. Yep, that's a lot. And his idea that equity shares are final. Well, my idea is that they can be reissued and they can be decreased to current equity shares to offer new equity to new partners. Completely doable. As long as that's in your agreement and it's somewhere, it says that you can do that. So he's opened up in a new model, addressing the equity, but he's not sure how things are done, and he's erring on the safe side. So a lot of going on here. First of all, I guess I would, I obviously can't get answers right now live, but why are you the only funding source and you have only 3%? There's got to be more to that, or it just doesn't make sense to me. If you are the only funding source, and you kind of run the show, sort of. I mean, you run the show as in like you are funding this company. It relies on you to fund it. It's from what you're saying. So, but yet you have 3%, and you're just a tech employee that has involved the CTO. Definitely need a higher percent just from what I'm reading. I would say, myself in your shoes, I would feel that I would want a higher percent just to feel good about getting into long-term debt, which you mentioned. So you're going to pull out I assume you're going to pull out a personal loan to fund the business and get yourself personally into long-term debt. That would definitely scream to me to make sure that that you're feeling good about what you're doing. And in this company, maybe 3% is good if this is a massive company, but you called it a startup, and that you quickly moved up to CTO, so it doesn't sound like some insanely large company making millions of dollars. I wonder why your CEO has 97% or 98%, 97, and what makes him, what makes him the boss, I guess, or is this his idea, is his business, and how did he talk you into funding it and only give you 3%? So I would, all these things are just questions that come to mind immediately. I would definitely find a time to speak with them as soon as possible. Partnership questions can be really difficult sometimes, and sometimes don't have a black and white answer. And you need to discuss them, and you need to really talk to your CEO or your partner and see what their side is, what their goals are, what are their ambitions, what are they trying to get out of this, and then put out your goals, your ambitions, what are you trying to get out of this, and find how that can all be working together. It's not all about you get what you want or he gets what he wants, is how do we both get what we want? And it'll take some conversations probably, but if it sounds like you need to get on that, I would recommend getting on that as soon as possible. And you mentioned not having a business plan. That needs to happen ASAP. I mean, how do you even know what your business is going without a business plan? How do we know what you're supposed to be in 6 months, or where you're supposed to be next year? What is it going to be worth next year? If you are going to, have a certain percentage as to equity, you need some sort of plan, some kind of, even if the plan changes as you get going, you need something that shows where you're headed and what you have in mind. And that'll really help paint a picture too of, what your role in that is in that plan, and how the more of your role you have in that plan, or the more that depends on you, the more I would say you have leverage to get a larger percentage. Let's see, what else? I took some notes for you here. I mentioned this, but don't forget to look at both sides. It's best to negotiate when you're trying to make everybody happy, and it's really hard to negotiate when you're trying to, one party gets what they want or the other party gets what they want. Try to make it a mutual positive, and that will be a better long term. Or if you can't get that, then maybe it's a sign that this isn't the best long-term partnership. And partnerships, statistically speaking, most of the time fail. With no feelings and emotions and history attached to statistics, partnerships usually fail more than half of the time, and more than 60 and more than 70 usually part of the time. It's tough, and you have to have really clear what everybody's role is, super clear. And not having a business plan tells me that probably isn't super clear, and that's one of the initial recipes to a bad long-term relationship, and eventually having some kind of hiccup or problem. I can speak from experience. I have had partnerships go bad, and I have partnerships be great still today and ongoing. And big differentiator between them is really having clear roles, what everybody's role is in that partnership and how they contribute and what they're responsible for. And where the line crosses between, now it's the other partner's responsibility. Yep, and that's it. I mean, it goes back to, just I would even say, reach out to somebody, a professional that can help you write a business plan. There are plenty of firms and even mentors in AO that would be happy to assist you in writing a business plan for probably a very affordable price. Maybe there'll be people in AO that could even be happy to share their current business plans with them if it's anything that relates to what you're doing. I think we have some tech people, but either way, get a business plan and sit down with your CEO and talk it out. But the numbers that you are putting out here, that you laid out with that more detail, just don't seem fair on your end. All right. Well, in any way, reach out to me if you want to discuss further. So next question, we have Christopher Joseph. And Christopher Joseph here asked, when picking a name for a product or company, would a name in which Google tries to suggest something else, as in, did you mean this, blank, because there are minimal accurate results, be advantage or disadvantage? Basically, he's looking for, in the background, he's looking for a name, and one of the options that they like produces no results, and Google keeps suggesting something else, and it thinks that you typed in the wrong search. I'm not an SEO expert. That's my initial disclaimer. I hire SEO experts to do my stuff, but I have learned a thing or two, listening to them talk and teaching me things. And from personal experience, my brand is kind of opposite. My brand is called Natural Life. Very general thing. If you type in Natural Life, there's 1,000 Natural Life things. I didn't think this through when I first named my company. And when I've talked to the SEO guys, they occasionally mention to me how if our brand was worded in some unique way that was unique to us, or was named in some unique way that was unique to us, and nobody else had this, like Starbucks coffee, maybe be an example, Walmart, or probably bad at coming up with examples, but something where it's spelled uniquely and maybe even a completely new word doesn't even exist. They talk about it like it's a good thing, like it will let you kind of own that word on Google. And if you can own your word on Google, then that's super powerful, because essentially you are the only result. It's not even that you're at the top, you are the only. So I think that is a good thing. Definitely get more advice. I'm not an SEO expert, but I would say go with the most unique brand if what you're worried about is searchability and being able to be found. Hope that helps. Okay, next person is AJ Cotis. AJ, his question is, how to begin training my first hire? All right, that's pretty general, but we've all done it, and an exciting time. See some background here is, he's about 8 months into entrepreneurial journey. I'm quickly learning that I don't have the time or bandwidth to accomplish everything else. Very, very good to realize that. The sooner you realize that, the sooner you can start scaling. My business growth agency that includes my business is a growth agency that includes web development. I've had skilled friend working on a project by project basis for the last 6 months, and we're finally to the point that we can support hiring him part-time. I'm excited to be training him to do many of the low-value tasks that are currently on my plate. But I'm also nervous about this, as I know that my first hires didn't work out well, so it sounds like you've had some already. And I've also seen how training process can make or break someone who otherwise would be a good team member. I really appreciate any input you have related to this topic. So awesome question, AJ. It's awesome that at least you understand this. Most people have to go through a bit of hiring before they realize how important this really is. A few months ago, I went to a leadership retreat at Sean's place where a few mentors gave me, JT and Tom Black together gave me onboarding material, different onboarding material that I collaborated and put together and create an onboarding binder for my business. And it has all the steps that I would follow when hiring somebody to really help me not only screen them, interview them, hire them, but also train them properly. And then I've also learned from from Dan Abate, who's a coach of mine. He's taught me how to write job description JD scorecards, and essentially it's a job description formatted in a way that it makes it very user friendly for the employee to follow, and it makes it black and white whether or not they're delivering on their responsibilities, and it's easier for the supervisor to hold them accountable. So my recommendation is just make sure the basics of it would be make sure that all of the responsibilities are very clearly written down. If it's not documented and they don't have it documented that it's their responsibility, then you shouldn't even require of them. So document that exactly, and then the next most important thing, these are general things, but the next most important thing is to regularly hold them accountable. So praise them for every time they do anything awesome, and let them know every time they don't do anything awesome. And then how to show them how to do it right. But you need to have on regular check to check on their performance, and regularly be like high-fiving them, and then regularly be like, hey, but this one thing is not so hot, let's fix it. If you don't do that on a regular basis, the problems get big, and then when you have an issue with an employee, you're firing them, or you have a really big problem and you're on the verge of firing them. And then having these scorecards the way that Dan had shown me how to do it, which if you message me directly, I'll be happy to share mine with you. If not, I would also reach out to Dan. He'd be happy to help you, I'm sure. And that also helps me be able to it makes it easier not only for them to follow, but for me to check in. So if you do it in that format, it might be a good way to start. But it's really important to not just tell them what you want and show them what you want, but document it what you want and give it to them documented. So then when they're not delivering, you can go back and be like, look, I showed you this, I gave you this, we went over this, and you have this. You're not doing it. It's not any he said this, she said that, I thought this, I thought that, I assumed this, I interpreted this. And then that all happens verbally, and it's a big nightmare. So that's my biggest advice, is that. And then as far as training, obviously you want to show them how to do everything you want them to do, but back to documenting, if you could have instructional videos created, or at least a process is documented of step by step what the actual tasks are, and that could be in link resources to the job description that you have that has the responsibilities, and then some links to like the actual step by steps for each one of the responsibilities. Something like that would be really good long term, because it takes weight off your employee. They have less guessing to do, and it just creates a more positive experience for them. So long term, they're a better employee for you. I hope that helps. Feel free to reach out, though. I'll be happy to share those with you. I hope that was helpful for everyone. That's all the questions I have today. I expect that I'll get a little bit better at these mentor sessions with time, so bear with me. And thank you guys. Have a good day.